All right, another episode of Prof and Dev Play Games. This is episode 239, and man, I used to have this intro down cold, word for word, every single time for 200 and something podcasts, but since this pandemic, my brain is mush, so we're at 239. I'm at Prof Plays Games on Twitter. I teach English in Southern California, and over there's Anthony, the dev, at Summerspeak on Twitter. How's it going, man?
Pretty good. Just another weekend at home.
Just another, what is today, Monday, Thursday? Sunday?
I don't know. Time has no meaning anymore.
Exactly. This last month has felt like a fucking year.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just like, it's a day. This is a day I don't have to work. I know that.
Yeah.
But I still keep around like, oh, is tomorrow Monday? Do I have to do anything tomorrow? What's going on? I guess I should be happy that I can work during this, so...
Yeah, I mean, that's it. I feel like I'm overwhelmed with raising my kid and working at the same time. But there are people who don't work now, and I just am incredibly blessed. So
yeah, that's one thing we got. There's been a lot of stuff with the Washington State of, like, schools are closed for the rest of the year. Yep, or this school year. Who knows about the fall? But new guidance has come out in the past, like, 2 weeks ago of, like, okay, what do elementary school kids need? What do they have to do at home? What do teachers need to be doing? Oh my God, this week we have so much more that our kids have to do.
Oh boy.
And I'm like, at this point, I'm like, we'll see how this goes. Or maybe we're just going to pull into homeschooling for the rest of the year. If we can't make this work and if they hate it, because it's a lot of just worksheets and crap. Right. And I'm like, I can't see my kids enjoying this at all. This is probably just going to be fighting.
As a fucking educator, my advice for people who are just, like, trying desperately to homeschool, just stop. Don't. Like, they are stressed, these kids. Like, they're not going to learn in this environment. And the best thing you can do with your kids is to read with them and do activities where they're learning. Like, math is built into so many activities around your house. Like, spend time with them. And I know that schools are basically saying, like, you have to do this and you need to check in with us and whatever else. But I think your strategy there is maybe the winning one.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we were doing before all this guidance came in. We actually were doing a lot of interest-led education for them.
Mm-hmm.
And being like, okay, like, yeah, we'll like give you math to do and some writing and test you and like help you practice handwriting and things like that. But not like a ton, but just daily check-ins on that. But then also like, okay, tell us what you're interested in learning about. Let's figure this out. Like, my daughter decided that she wanted to learn about animals in Glacier National Park.
Hey,
and so then she's like, okay. She chose the beaver as the first one, and then she spent a few days like researching about beavers, reading about them, watching videos, and then she made a little poster and wrote facts about beavers on it and presented it to us.
Right,
she's done that for beavers and lynxes, and now she's done with Glacier and she wants to do narwhals. So, you know.
Are there narwhals in Glacier?
She decided, she was just like, I want a narwhal now. We're like, fine, narwhals it is. I don't know a lot about narwhals, so why not? Teach me about narwhals.
My daughter has some socks with narwhals on them, and she's had them for about 4 or 5 months. Maybe like 4 weeks ago, my wife said, I just learned narwhals are a real animal. I thought they were fake.
They're like unicorns, right?
Yes, exactly. Unicorns of the sea.
That's kind of what they are.
I mean, that's what they look like. That's why she thought they were fucking fake.
My daughter has a stuffed animal narwhal, and she loves it. So she would like to learn about them. And
that's what homeschooling. I
feel bad about this now that all the schoolwork's going to come slam me down, and she won't get to do that now because we won't have time for that. Yeah, we'll see. But neither her wife and I are like, we don't want to make this a fight. We are not up for it being a fight trying to teach them. So
no, we're in a stressful situation anyways. To add more stress to your kids like that is not going to help, and then they won't fucking learn the shit anyways.
Yeah.
So you can have a situation where you stress everyone out, and everyone's pissed at each other, and the shit doesn't get learned, or you can have a good relationship where everyone's having fun together, and you're learning in your interest-led way, and then you just don't learn that other stuff anyways. Like that's not going to happen, guys. Sorry.
Yeah. I know it's challenging. I think it's challenging for the teachers. I think the teachers we've talked to, and they'd prefer not to be doing this at all. But It's coming down from the state. So.
Oh yeah, no, us too. I mean, I'm teaching online to at least they're college students and they want to be doing this stuff. But it's weird, man. And in terms of fall, like we're all online for summer, and one of our local community colleges is already online for fall, and I'm 99% certain we will be too. So I'm just not going anywhere this year.
Yeah. Yeah.
Seriously, like 2020 is just like, I will stay here.
Yeah. We've wife and I have talked about that. We're like, I'm just like, because we have people that are, I would say, getting pretty friends and family. They're just getting really frustrated with the situation. Mm-hmm. And we, of course, do our check-in, and we're like, no, I've already written this year off for the most part. Yep. I'm like, and I'm not upset about it completely. Nope. Like, a little disappointed that I don't get to go on some of the trips that I was looking forward to. But you know what? It sucks, but I'll survive.
That's the key thing. Like, if we survive this year, we'll be lucky, and we should be blessed for that. And like my wife and I too, we knew early on this would probably go through fall, just, in terms of how flu viruses spike and go away and come back. And then in terms of what our schools were planning, like this is 2020 for us since almost the beginning. And our neighbors were like, this is 2 weeks. And now it's been past 2 weeks and they're like going crazy. And it's like, you guys, you're in for the long haul. You got to figure out how to make this work at your house. I think a lot of people at home now are just kind of like, yeah, it's been long enough. The numbers aren't that bad. We can go back out, and all these stupid AstroTurf protests happening in all these state capitals or big cities. We're far away from this being over, guys.
Yeah, it just is what it is. I mean, yeah, you can't do a lot of the big things, but you're also not. You can still get outside if you need to. It's not. Mm-hmm. There's inconveniences, but I can still do a lot of the things I enjoy, and I really implore people to find things that you enjoy that aren't going to pack yourself in with a bunch of other people. Like, right. There are things to do and to find entertainment from, like playing video games. They're a really good entertainment proposition here.
And bang for your buck. Easy to get without leaving the house. Yep. And speaking of video games, this is a video game podcast.
Yeah.
This week we're talking about the PS5, and then we're going to talk about Final Fantasy VII. And when we get to Final Fantasy VII, we're going to be spoiling a 20-year-old game.
Do you care if I spoil the new
absolutely
game?
Do not.
Okay, because I've got some. I got some spoilers. Holy shit!
Yes, I want you. I want to hear about the ending for sure from you.
Okay.
Why don't we hit PS5 first? And you found this article from Forbes. So
Forbes. It came out. It was just some rumors, so take it with a grain of salt. I don't think they would straight up be publishing things they weren't somewhat confident in, though. They're basically part one being that the PS5 will be more limited at launch than the PS4 was, and it might be hard to find. Not shocking.
Nope.
They're still saying it's not because of coronavirus stuff or COVID, that just sourcing the parts for the system is hard. Probably true. I have to believe that coronavirus is making it harder to source those parts.
That's my sense too.
Yeah, just be honest here. A lot of electronics production got shut down or disrupted there, and it's takes time to ramp back up, the whole thing. So buying that RAM, those SSDs, making the chips themselves, there's only certain facilities that can do that in the world, and they're probably under a lot of pressure to catch up with supply that they had lost because of being shut down at different points or slow production currently. And then honestly, that the next Xbox, the Series X, and the PS5, while somewhat different, still share a lot of the same internals as well. Like, they're both AMD processors, same production quality there, different clock speeds, but I mean, produced probably in the same facilities from the same sourcing, same RAM, GDDR RAM, video stuff. SSD stuff is probably different, but who knows where it's specifically coming from. Again, a lot of the stuff is sourced from the same companies for these kind of components. So I also take this as, I would expect that the Series X is going to be more limited as well. Like, both companies are competing for the same pipeline to produce these.
Well, it's interesting to think about it being supply constrained and there being fewer than obviously they'd want to have.
Yeah.
Juxtaposing that with the thought that the developers have for the price, they said that they're estimating. This is not Sony, of course. This is just developers based on the pricey components, $500 to $550.
Yep.
Which in a normal time, I feel like that's DOA, because $400 seems to be the sweet spot for consoles, and anything over has not sold well.
Very clearly, historically, it's held true.
Right. We have lots of case studies, right?
Yeah.
But then throw on top of that, not just the pandemic and the sourcing, but like fucking like unemployment. We're heading towards like depression level unemployment. And to be able to buy a luxury good like that, I don't know how many customers there are going to be compared to how many there were going to be. You know, I feel like if you think about the Xbox 360 and PS3 generation, it was extended because of that recession, 2008 recession. It might be happening again with PS4 and Xbox One. You know, might be playing those a lot longer than we thought.
Yeah, I think at those prices, it's gonna and you're gonna see a slow uptake on the next gen.
Yeah. Especially since
and
some of the
maybe it
ones-
works out since it's supply constrained, and then by the time it's non-supply constrained, that prices might come down a little bit.
Right.
Things might have recovered a little bit more by then. So who knows? I did also, the article was like, Sony is not expected to delay the PS5 unless Microsoft also delays the Series X.
Oh, that's interesting. Like whoever moves first, the other team would be like,
Yeah.
"Oh, thank God, yeah, let's just maybe they just meet in a room and be like, yo, can we just delay this shit because this is not the right time to put this shit out."
And they
There's
might.
more.
There's still a lot of year left before this. So
There is, and I think a lot. If you think about the fall, the games that are coming out for those systems, I believe they're also coming out for that, you know, Xbox One or PS4. Like, I think Cyberpunk, obviously already Cyberpunk,
Yeah.
they already said that it's not going to come out day and date on both generations. But also games like Ghost of Tsushima is going to be on PS4 and I think PS5 as well. Eventually, like you can, what is it, upres it or whatever.
Yeah.
I forgot exactly what they said. And then Halo, I think, is on both systems. Halo
Maybe?
Infinite.
Yeah, I don't
thought
know.
it was on PS. I thought it was not PS4. Xbox One and Xbox Series X because it's going to be part of Game Pass. I thought it was going to be on both. If that's the case, then I don't see any problem with waiting. Like there's just so much.
Oh yeah,
headwind.
it's on Xbox One, Series X, and it's on Windows.
Oh, great, perfect.
So yeah, it's just on everything.
Yeah, so there's just so much headwind that, I mean, if it's looking on Windows, like my computer is better than my Xbox One, so I'd probably just could play it here anyways.
Yeah, and it's an FPS. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Although Brad always laughs to me that I'm playing fucking Destiny 2 on my using Stadia on my laptop using a fucking controller. He's like, just use a mouse.
It's true. You could.
I could. My keyboard wasn't really working, so that was my excuse.
There you go.
But no, I feel like there's so much headwind. Like there's so many different things that are like shivving the release date. Like just push it, man. Yeah. I don't know if this is not the right time economically for people to buy it, but maybe for them they need it, you know, for their portfolio or whatever.
Yeah. It's hard to say. I think if they do it, I could see them both pushing it 6 months.
Yeah. It's fine. I don't know.
And I think no matter what, they'll wait at least a few months.
To say.
I don't think any of the stuff would have ever been announced pre E3 anyway, release dates or anything. No. So I would expect it into June, probably maybe beginning of July. So I think you'll see both companies just kind of like playing chicken until then. And then they'll just, because they want to wait as long as they can just to see what the economy's going to look like, what their supply chain's going to look like, the whole thing. Like,
right.
They want to wait till the last possible moment, and then they'll make a call, I'm sure. And yeah, I would expect if one does it, both will do it.
Yep, absolutely.
I mean, I guess one of them could say, "Screw it, their other one's going to move. We're just going to go in with a very small number at this beginning just to get the jump on it." But I don't think it will matter in the end.
I don't feel like that matters. And what's the point? Obviously, that's not my job, not my realm. But
I mean, it didn't matter on. I don't think completely on this generation, but it definitely didn't matter on the 360 PS3 generation, where the PS3 came out. Did it come out later? Yeah, it came out. The 360 came out first by a significant margin. The PS3 launched expensive, and it finally came down in price, and then matched. But then in the end of the entire generation, the PS3 has more, not a ton more, but a few million more consoles sold than the 360.
Yeah.
In its lifespan. So I think in the long run, it just didn't matter, and I don't think you need to worry about launching. Like, in the end, these companies don't have to completely worry about it. And to me, I don't think Sony should worry about it. They have really strong first-party games, and people are going to buy your console for those games. I think just have faith in their developers on that front. They will sell your console. Another Spider-Man will probably sell the console. Another God of War, yes. Another Horizon, yes.
Well, and there was some sort of leak this week about the new Spider-Man 2, something about like the dynamic missions or something that's like basically like it's real and it's pretty far along. I'm not sure what that means for when it comes out.
And release window. I don't know. They say Sony PS sequel does not seem holiday 2021, so it wouldn't be a launch. It would be the year
for Spider-Man.
after. Yeah.
Okay, I guess that makes sense.
It'd be a year later. Yeah. I bet it would be a really pretty big boon there. That's the thing. I'm like, Sony, you don't. It's okay. Like you could delay and be okay. And honestly, Microsoft at this point, I'm like, you just put everything out on the PC anyway. So all you want to do is sell games. So just sell games. If you want to hold off on your hardware, it'll be okay.
Like you have so much software, you have so much hardware out in the wild. Like just make your money off of that, and then like be goosing the PS4 numbers as well, which is kind of nice for them at least. I think this generation is going to last longer than people think. And I saw an article this week, I can't remember where it was at, that was basically saying like because of this, they said they're going to push more PS4 sales and do some more sales on the existing consoles that there are. So we'll see how high that number can get for PS4.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Well, there's just a library, man. Like, if you're coming in PS4 now, like, fuck, you got so many good games.
Yeah, a lot of good games. Which I guess we can get to a really good game.
Yeah, speaking of good games, a new one.
So, yeah, I beat Final Fantasy VII Remake.
Nice.
Beat it last night, and I think it took me 38 hours.
Holy fuck.
36? 36 or 38, somewhere in there.
I'm not surprised it's that long. I'm surprised that you beat it that quickly. Was it a week?
Yeah. I mean, I was staying up late every night. I mean, because it was so flat out. It's incredible. Mm-hmm. Like, met all my expectations on like gameplay, the update to the characters and the story and the characterization of the characters. I mean, so 23 years ago at this point is when it came out. The original. I mean,
97, right?
Yeah, 97 was when it came out in the US. Your characterization was short text blurbs. So you did a lot of that yourself, and some characters just didn't have any. But they've blown this out, and there's such good characters. Holy crap. But also, the humorous thing on the characterization, and I've seen it said other places, and it's so true. These characters are so fucking thirsty. Jesus Christ.
Thirsty for cloud, or?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Just in general, you're just like, oh my god. Like, I mean, I guess they're all like 18 to like 23-year-olds, so it makes sense in a lot of ways. But you're just, it's just like out there, and you're like, whoa. Especially awesome. Jessie, who is kind of, I would say, best girl. But boy, is she just like, I really am into your Cloud. Come on. You're like,
bring your Buster Sword over here, buddy.
Yeah. My housemates are out tomorrow night. You coming over? Just like, are you serious? This is okay. That's
bring your cross-dressing
very,
attire.
very forward. So the characterizations, especially of like Jessie, Biggs, and Wedge, the other Avalanche characters, is amazing. Like they actually have depth, and you get a sense of like why they're in the fight to begin with, and then when they die, it sucks. Except Wedge. Wedge doesn't die, and he doesn't die in the original either. Because you actually feel for these characters. They're not just little text blurbs here and there. They actually are like characters you've like learned to understand and why they do what they do. And one of the big things
I didn't bang you before you died.
With Jessie, which is interesting, is she really blames herself for the first Maka reactor. When you blow it up, it's not a small explosion, it's a huge explosion that wrecks a good part of the town. And she feels really bad for it, because she's like, that I didn't use enough, that shouldn't have happened, I did every precaution. What happened? Well, Shinra's the one who made it explode bigger. Like, they're doing a false flag operation against Avalanche. That's brought up a lot more in the remake. their plans of just like, yeah, let them bomb and make it seem like they're the bad guys.
Right.
But the thing is, in a lot of games, you get a sense that, okay, at the end, before Jessie dies, she would learn that it wasn't her fault. No, she goes to the grave thinking that she caused mass destruction and killed a bunch of people.
Mm-hmm.
She never gets to realize that it wasn't her fault. And it's a really bold choice on that of being like, oh, that's horrible. Like, but they went there and they're willing to do it in the story, and it felt natural and really good. Like, oh, this is
it resonates
meaningful.
Emotionally pretty well.
Yeah, of being like, oh god, that sucks.
And is that when that happens in this remake? Is that like 3/4 of the way through where she dies, and you're kind of left with that? Or is it like more like
2/3?
Okay,
that's when the plate falls.
Mm.
Which you're thinking like, oh, the plate falls. Okay, now time to go to attack Shinra. Man, this game, God, it's padded out in some places. Not in a bad way, just in a way of like, oh, I know how this goes. Like the plate falls, and then you have a few little scenes, and you then go up and you start attacking Shinra's headquarters. Not that long, maybe 20 minutes before you're doing it. I mean, it was 4 or 5 hours before I was at Shinra's, because they really linger on the repercussions of these actions and these things happening, and you dig into it and how the people are responding to it and helping them out and saving them, and then they add things. There's a bunch of added scenes and parts to the story, mostly just flesh out other characters or to foreshadow events in the later part of the original Final Fantasy story. So you learn a lot more about Sephiroth, you learn about Shinra's failed experiments and cloning, and not cloning, or soldier experiments, and the whole thing. Like you start learning about the underbelly of the corporation much earlier, and it all works, and I think it does a better job of telling the story that they're telling.
Well, I was trying to remember, because I played through the first section through Midgar, God, like 2 years ago, year and a half ago. Does Sephiroth show up in that first section?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
At Shinra Building, he's killed the president off screen. You see him briefly. Like but you don't spend he's briefly there.
Is he more in this remake? Okay.
In a way that, I mean, he's there but not. It's cloud scene visions and things like that. But they definitely and towards the end, you actually see him kill the president, and then you see him kill Barrett, which doesn't happen in the original game.
I was going to say, wait, what?
And then that's reversed, because a thread that runs through this game that you only learn towards the end, they add the Dementor type things, the Whispers, and they're Whispers of Fate. And there's a meta-narrative going on here of they are guiding the story to be the same as before. So anytime there's deviations from the original story, these Whispers will appear and nudge it back on track.
Is that supposed to be the developers who are like, yeah, that was fun?
I don't know. I mean, that's why I feel like it's a meta-narrative on can you, what is it? And this is where it gets weird. And this is, I think, why the ending is very divisive for people. But they put this early in the game, super early in the game. They start seeding these Whispers. So I think the first time you really see them is whenever you meet Aerith for the first time, and the conversation starts going on longer. And it's not playing out similar to, starting to veer off from how it happened in the original game. And then these Whispers start appearing, and they guide Aerith to run away, as she should have originally. And you don't really realize this until you've been caught to the end of the game, that you see these Whispers have been setting things in motion as things deviated, and where the storyline was differing, trying to keep everything in fate and destiny on track, because the story has already been told. It's an interesting meta narrative to me, from a development standpoint of well, what is a remake? Why retell the same story? Is this and if you are retelling the same story, are you beholden to what has come before, and you need to keep it shaped the same? And it just keeps on getting worse and worse as things go off the rails a little bit, until Barrett gets stabs, and the Whispers bring him back to life, because that's not where he's supposed to die. As in, he doesn't die in the game ever. That's how it goes.
That's kind of a cool way to do that, because for you to know the story, X, Y, or Z is not going to die, and then they do, and you're like, what the Jesus Christ is happening here? And then they pull it back, and you're like,
Cool.
oh, that's kind of a weird. It feels like a smart way to do that, to like kind of play up the emotional carnage without actually doing it.
Yeah.
But then instead of just making it feel cheap, it's like, oh, there's some sort of meta narrative built in that is intriguing.
It is intriguing. And you get to where the game normally would have ended, Midgard, your highway fight.
Yep.
The motorcycle sections are amazing, I will say. I love them. Not like the original, which I despise them, but they were fun to play. Music was great the entire time, but you get to that end. You fight, you've gone on the highway, you fought, you get to the end of the highway. You step off your bikes and the cars, and you're walking to the end of the highway, and you're going to go down, and that's where the game probably would normally end, where I expected it to end. And then Sephiroth appears. And he's there. And basically, that's when you learn that these whispers there's destiny in place. The story needs to go a certain way. And then you go through a portal to Destiny Crossroads, because Sephiroth is asking you to fight Destiny and Fate. Or he's going to. And you go in with your party. And you fight these whispers and this big whisper of fate and destiny, and then 3 bosses appear in front of you. One that has a gun on its arm. They're really weird. They don't look like people, but one has a gun on its arm. One uses a sword blade, and one uses punching. That mirrors the team they're using of Cloud, Barrett, and Tifa.
Right.
And if you assess them and read them, it says they are beings from a future timeline trying to save theirs.
Oh, whoa.
And then you kill them all.
Oh, nope.
And you basically, game ends with you having destroyed what Destiny is going to be. And you see visions while you're doing this of Final Fantasy VII moments that you would expect. Aerith dying. The end of the game, Red 13 running through 500 years later. Running through a canyon. It's these scenes that from someone who's played Final Fantasy VII you should know, and they're memorable scenes, and you're seeing little bits of them playing out and then fading away.
So what was your reaction to that ending?
Was one, what the fuck is going on? This is weird as fuck.
Just turn into Kingdom Hearts.
Exactly. There was some of that and being like, what? It felt like it got. I mean, I've talked to my wife about this. She's like, this is so anime. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Right.
And then that's the other thing they pull in. They definitely pull in stuff from Crisis Core. That was the game that had Zack in it, who was the person Cloud has his memories jumbled with. That's Cloud's whole story, is he's taken on the persona of his best friend Zack, who was a soldier, because Cloud was never a soldier originally. He flunked out.
Right.
And he was experimented on with Zack, and he had a mental breakdown, and he's now taken on the fake persona of Zack. He was a soldier, and he's co-opted a lot of his friends' stories as oh, that's what I did in life, sort of thing. Because Zack died protecting Cloud. Well, they show Zack, and they show pretty much an exact cutscene from Crisis Core at the end of redo it in this, because he just suddenly, you're like, huh, we're seeing this now again. That's weird, but sure, time's all weird. We're seeing cutscenes and out of time. But then that all ends, and Zack doesn't die. He's actually showing a different timeline now where Zack didn't die and got Cloud to Midgar. They're both alive. Don't know what that means at all. Right. But they've clearly shown that there's a separate timeline now. Does that matter in the future? I don't know. We'll find out.
I wonder if they know. They're like, we set this up to see where we would go with it.
Maybe. I mean, there's been some docs that they've put up that has said that they storyboarded the entire
okay.
They basically they storyboarded the high points of the Final Fantasy VII story, and then started working from there. So who knows? And it wasn't just the Midgar section. It sounded like they did it for the entire game, and then they've started moving stuff around, or adapting. But I mean, it ends with the unknown journey will continue. That's the final line of the game.
Unknown journey.
Yeah. Basically, at this point, they've meta-narratively, the developers said, we have destroyed the timeline and the story that you thought Final Fantasy VII was, and this is not that story anymore. So
that's kind of cool. I know that's probably the thing that pisses fans
because
off, right?
I guess so. And I see it. I have sympathy for those people because they were looking for a very pretty redo of the story that they had known.
Right.
As a developer, fuck that. I don't want to. I'm sure all of them are like, we don't want to make the same goddamn game again. Like,
right.
That's not what we're doing. If you want that, just play the old one. It exists. It's there. Why do I want to spend a decade of my life making the same story again?
Right.
I don't. I want to do something new, and they're going to do something new. And I guarantee you, the next chapter of this, I won't even call it a part anymore, isn't going to be Final Fantasy VII Remake. It's going to be Final Fantasy VII some new subtext.
Right.
That is not going to be
cool.
is not going to be a remake. It's not. And actually, I think remake is like one of the you can pick. I don't know. Get a little picky with the semantics of what remake means.
Right.
Because this is if you take remake as they are truly like they're not trying to just copy what came before. They are reshaping it, truly remaking what came before. I don't know. It's crazy, and I'm sure it's pissed a lot of people off. But
it's almost like a reimagining now.
Yeah. It is a reimagining, but I wouldn't even call it a complete reboot either, because I feel like there's something to be said that the original story did happen.
Right.
Because of the way that they're showing that there are different timelines and fates. Like, I mean, if this is kind of,
yeah.
And there's now like people are, I will never know until the next one, are thinking that like the Sephiroth you see at the end there is the Sephiroth from Advent Children.
Oh man.
Is like a future Sephiroth that is like wanting to control this.
What a mind fuck.
It is a mind fuck. And it's very Japan, very anime.
Yeah. Right.
And I'm sure some people are like, what the fuck are they doing? Why would they do this? And I'm like,
I saw a ton of people who were saying that online.
And why would they do this? Because they want to tell something. They have something else they want to say with this. They're not interested in rehashing the old. They lulled you into the old by updating about 85% of that old game into something new, just the Midgard section. But it's not. From there, nothing has to play out the same. Aerith, I'm like, maybe she doesn't die at this point. I would say she probably doesn't. Why does she need to anymore?
Wow, what if Cloud died?
Yeah, I mean, that's totally a possibility. They might flip some stuff around. What if Tifa died? What if Barrett died? Like, they could change pretty much anything at this point.
Great.
They've given themselves a blank slate.
That's got to be exciting for the developers. For
yeah,
sure.
They're like, we can tell a new story with these characters, and it feels like they're holistically bringing in pieces from the extended Final Fantasy universe of like Advent Children, Crisis Core. There was no Dirge of Cerberus yet, but then it's all Vincent, who I assume is going to show up at some point.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was such a crazy journey getting through that point and through that ending, and I enjoyed it a ton. I'm super excited to see what comes next.
Right.
I think they've updated everything very nicely from a gameplay standpoint. The battle system is incredible.
And you played the new way, right? You didn't play classic.
Nope, I played normal all the way through.
Yeah. Right.
And it was, I lost a few fights here and there. It's not a cakewalk, but my God, whenever it's like, when you're on it and just moving in that flow, it's so good. It is modern day ATB, because it's not, I guess in some way you could, if be over leveled or powered, you could just button mash your way through it. But if you're playing it in the way I think it's really intended to be playing, you're spending a few seconds on one character, filling up an ATB gauge, jumping to another character, firing off special abilities, and just cycling through your characters as you need to. There's a lot of it is the ATB waiting to do things, but instead of just waiting for a bar to fill, you're actively doing stuff while that bar is filling. And needing to dodge and block and things like that. It's really cool. I finished plenty of fights where going like, that was really badass. And they do a lot with interesting fight mechanics, really cool boss designs and boss stages and mechanics, and a lot to learn there. Ton of fun. So that was great. Graphics are great. almost universally, except for some weird exceptions of low res every once in a while, which I'm like, it has to be memory related. There's no reason that it's not like it's missed. Like, you're like, I'm sure they saw that was like that way, and it had. They're either running up against memory limits of like, well, we got to just have lower res stuff here because we can't fit it all into memory. So what's the important pieces in the scene?
Right.
And because they want to keep the characters super, the main characters are super high detailed. A lot of NPCs are not as high detailed, and it's clear.
Yeah.
There's pretty stark contrast between like what I consider first class citizens in the game and second class citizens in the game from a design standpoint. And I don't mean that from like terror. You're just like, you put a lot of resources and time, and you put a lot of your like performance and budget in making your main characters look really good, like really, really good. So that doesn't leave you with a lot of spare cycles to make your NPCs look good. So they got to be lower polygon, lower textured. And then lip syncing gets off at weird points sometimes, not in main cutscenes or even in-engine cutscenes. It's like there's these weird ones. A lot that happens in the side quest ones where you're like, huh, what they're saying and their lips aren't syncing up right. That's weird. Again, just little pieces like that are a little bit jarring graphically, but
right,
still super pretty overall. And battles are incredible. Like, particles are flying everywhere, and like, it's rock solid frame rates as far as I can tell. I didn't notice any frame drops. So it's just like, they made sacrifices, I think, where they had to make sacrifices, either due to performance budget on like what they could make the PS4 do, or with like the lip syncing and that side content. I just have a feeling it was just like, we don't have the time or the resources to devote to this. Like, sure, we can make it better, but we don't have the month to redo the lip syncing. Sorry, it's just got to go out the door. So, making games is always a compromise in that way. I'm sure their bug board is just full of tons of shit that they're like, we wish we could have fixed this, but it wasn't deemed blocking. So
right, and they had to redo or restart or reboot the whole fucking process anyways when they brought it back from Saber or whoever had it.
Yeah, I don't think they wanted to spend a ton of time. They're like, they already delayed it a month, and who knows what they've got done in that month. My thought is actually that month was probably performance focused. I bet it wasn't performing well, and that's why you see some of this stuff is just quick fixes to get it into to actually even properly perform on a PS4. So,
right.
But overall, if I was actually like grading, I think it's a 9 out of 10 for me.
Really?
Right now.
Nice.
It's resonating really well with me, and I had a blast with it. Like, where it matters, it nails it, like, almost all the time.
Is it a game that you feel like you'll be revisiting? Probably.
I mean, you finished it. There's a few things else I would like to do. That there's a hard mode now. I don't know how much I care about that. It's normal mode, but in hard you can't use items.
Any items?
No items.
Whoa, that seems like impossible.
So you have to manage your. You have to be really on with your combat, and then you have to manage your MP and your spells really well. So
no Phoenix Downs.
No Phoenix Downs. So rely on that revive materia, and make sure you keep your MP around. So really rely on your character's abilities more than materia abilities where possible. So I think there's a lot of cool stuff to be done there. There's some extra bosses that opened up after beating the game that you can play in like the simulator. That's how you get all your summons in this game, and not all of them. 2 of the summons you have to fight. You have to fight them to get them, and you fight them in this like VR simulator.
Oh man!
Like Shiva took me like 5 times. God, it was good though. Like, it was just learning the fight, changing my like materia configuration. And I think it was Shiva. Shiva was a 1-on-1 fight. It was Cloud versus Shiva. Was I doing it? And God, did it feel good to finish that. Ton of really cool stuff there. I'm looking forward to whatever they do next. I'm sure it's still going to be like minimum 3 years. Let's be honest. Maybe faster, maybe 2, but probably 3.
God, it seems like 3, yeah.
I'm like, maybe it's all UE4, and they've done a bunch of tooling for the engine and everything, like how to make this content. So maybe they can make it faster, because they probably won't redo the combat system. I can't imagine that they're going to drastically change a lot of some of these core systems for the next version. So it's a lot of content creation and maybe their pipeline is up to speed where they can make content quickly. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I think this has come out. I would expect earliest signs where they might talk about the next one would have been E3, just briefly saying like, yeah, we're developing it right now, and
right.
I
wonder if there's going to be any sort of digital presentation around E3 where we might see something.
All these companies, I'd expect them to. They've got to do something, probably. They don't want to just go radio silent for an entire year. So I would expect Square will probably put some presentation up at some point.
Yeah.
Maybe Sony, because who knows if it's still tied to Sony then, because the Final Fantasy VII Remake is tied to Sony for a year. So who knows? But yeah, I loved it. It's incredible, and I have a lot of memories with Final Fantasy VII, but I'm very excited that they are taking these characters. They've truly realized these characters, and then are moving them forward into their own story again, and can explore these characters deeper. So, yeah, it was really good. I didn't even talk about Wall Market and the Honeybee Inn.
Right.
That was fucking incredible.
Did they handle it the same way that the original game handled it?
No, not at all. They updated that. Cloud still cross-dresses.
Yeah.
But, and I talked to some of my LGBT friends who played through that section now, and they're like, they really enjoyed it. They felt it was very nicely updated and wasn't really problematic anymore.
That's good.
And it didn't seem problematic playing through it. It's towing a line a little bit more. I think the best way someone else described it is it's like very mainstream gay, but that's non-offensive. Like,
yeah,
it's not trying to say anything. It's just trying to be enjoyable and fun, and that's about it. Like, but you get to do a rhythm game during it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's a fun way to do it.
Rhythm game to do dancing. And it is... I think I would love a rhythm game made, and it's the presentation of it is amazing. The cinematography as you're doing the rhythm game, and how the button presses like weirdly exist in the world as the camera's moving around. So you're watching like particles flying around and like hitting different like square and circle and colored things while its camera's choreography is moving around Cloud and Andrea dancing. It's a spectacle, and it was really cool. But yeah,
I'm glad that they
revisited that. They knew that it was problematic, that it had not aged well, and they chose to update Wall Market quite a bit.
Right.
And how that all plays out and what you do there, and just get rid of a lot of the problematic stuff.
Right. People were worried about that. That's nice.
It makes sense. And yeah, they did. They had a good job there. I appreciated that. So yeah, that was great. I highly recommend it. Anyone that wants that likes JRPGs, this is a really good modern JRPG. And
after playing the demo for me, I'm excited to jump into it. I got it delivered last week. Haven't opened it yet because I'm playing God of War, which I'll talk about in a second. And I just don't want to skip from one to another again. I want to just play through it.
Yeah.
And not turn this into fucking Horizon Zero Dawn again. But Brad texted and said that he says Final Fantasy VII Remake is utterly phenomenal. From someone who tends to play all the side quests, usually doubling normal completion times, it was fantastic. Good challenge, action RPG style gameplay. So good. One of the main FF7 experts I follow had mentioned if it was a direct retelling, it loses interest because everyone knows what happens. So new twists and turns add that level of excitement and intrigue.
Yep. Which
makes total sense.
Yep. It adds that for the player, and I still say that the developers were not interested, like, especially like the director and stuff, Nomura, like, he's a long-time veteran of this. He does not want to spend the next many years of his career just retelling someone else's story.
Yeah, exactly.
Why? Like, a lot of creative people are not interested in doing that. And if they really just wanted to do a straight redo of it, they would just get some other company to just quickly do it. I guess maybe they did. Maybe that was one of the issues. Why it got pulled back in the Square. Maybe they were holding it too close to the original, and they wanted to push it farther. Who knows?
Well, I don't feel like they would have the fucking the leash to go off the leash. Basically, they feel like they probably couldn't.
Yeah, they either felt like maybe they felt like they couldn't, or that they it was an internalized thing of like, we love this game, why would we do that to it? Like, we don't want to, we gotta put the original up on a pedestal, and we can't knock it off.
Right.
And clearly the internal Square team is like, shove that pedestal over. We're breaking it and we're going forward. So yeah, it's hard to say. But it's like, no matter what, it's going to be exciting because no one knows what's happening next.
Right. That does make the next one coming out exciting.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm excited. So those are my thoughts.
Awesome. Well, I cannot wait to get into it. Hopefully, in a couple of weeks. Obviously, God of War is what I'm playing, and I get every other night. How we do it with our daughter is one person wakes up in the morning. Usually, it's at 6 a.m. So the mornings where I don't have to get up at 6 a.m., I stay up late the night before playing God of War. So I get about an hour and a half a night, which is kind of a good chunk. Man, the combat is fucking great in that game. It really it's the thing that keeps me going. There's some like environmental puzzles, like you have to throw your axe at like different bells to open chests, which is fucking annoying with a controller trying to like 3 bells at like, if you think about 360, like at one's at 0, one's at 90, one's at 180 or whatever, and like on different planes, above or below you, and to whip around, hit them all to get the fucking chest open on the timer basically is just fucking annoying. So those chests, I'm trying to get the stuff inside because you get like health upgrades and rage upgrades or whatever. But the combat, man, there's like so many different combos you can do and different attacks with Atreus. You have a button dedicated to him and he shooting arrows and things like that, and then your basic attacks, strong attacks, and then doing different combos with your buttons to do different kinds of attacks, running attacks. There's so fucking much. There's so much combat that if I stopped playing and came back to it, I had to relearn the whole thing, kind of like we talked about last week.
Yep.
The graphics are amazing. The story is fine. You're basically trying to get to the top of the mountain and deliver your wife's ashes. And along the way, shit stops you. Like, that's just a, standard story so far, which is good. Like, it's... I only played God of War 3, but man, compared to that, the story is great.
Yeah.
And his interactions with Atreus and like just Atreus standing up to this, beefy god, basically. Super cool. It is really compelling and is fucking gorgeous. I still think Horizon Zero Dawn is the most beautiful game I played on the system, but God of War looks really good. So having a good time. I'm sticking with it. I've probably put, 10 hours into it in the last week or so, maybe 8 hours. And then other than that, I've been playing a ton of Just Dance 2020. I bought it just, for exercise for the wife and I, and then I didn't even know they have a kids section. So there's a bunch of kids songs like Baby Shark and a bunch of, things Ubisoft made, that my daughter just fucking loves. So we're able to do screen time, video game time, which has become part of our, weekly routine now, and still feel like she's getting exercise and not entirely feeling like it's just sedentary. So
that's cool.
It's cool. She knows, just I pulled out my amiibo on a whim and she just knows all the characters now and she's just super excited about Nintendo. Yeah, it's fucking awesome. My wife's just like, who is that? And she's like, Little Mac. Looks at her like she doesn't know why she wouldn't know that.
Yeah.
It's awesome. So that's it. I've been playing those 2 games and that's it.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's been nice to
what I'm gonna play
after that, fill the void.
Yeah. I mean, I'll probably play a little bit more of 7, just kind of do these little bits of side content that I didn't do. But I don't know what the next game I really want to dive into is. Maybe I'll hold for a little bit. It's funny, finishing a big JRPG, I'm like, I want another JRPG. I love this genre, but maybe I'll play 12 on the Switch.
What is that, your 3rd time through?
Yeah, exactly.
That's awesome. I thought, do you have Dragon Quest 11?
I don't. That's definitely one that I'm considering. I'm considering. I mean, I probably won't for this month, but maybe for May, since I don't have anything specifically coming out then that I want to play, either like Dragon Quest 11 or Persona 5 Royal. I think that would be.
Oh man, Persona 5 Royal. Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll figure that out whenever what the next thing should be, but I'll wait for my gaming budget to come back in May for that. But yeah, Yeah,
I'm
that's
trying
where
to
I'm
think if
at.
there's anything on Plus that has come out recently that would be PS Plus that would be
Yeah.
something to hop into. No, let's see, what would I stake my bets on? Probably more Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I don't know.
good stuff. Well, boy, we're starting to get little leaks of things moving forward. Maybe we'll have some more news next week to discuss.
I'm sure we will in a lot of ways.
PS5 or Xbox? I'm going to say Xbox now.
Yeah, I feel like we're due to get a little bit more on that now. So yeah, we'll find out.
Well, thanks for listening to our episode 239, Prof and Dev Play Games. We're here every week. If you like us, tell your friends. If you don't like us, hey, you can tell your friends too. I don't care. We'll see you here again next week, folks.
All right. Talk to everyone later.